Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and we have a very interesting figure to take a look at today. Today we begin the quest of reviewing the newest wave of Ferocious Packs for the Mattel Jurassic World Dominion line, and the very first one that we have is the Rugops, and this one is very interesting because it may be one of the most out there interpretations of any dinosaur that Mattel has made yet. Mattel most often than not doesn't quite get the grasp of scientific accuracy, and we can always forgive them for that just because of the fact that these are, Jurassic World dinosaurs. They're not technically full-blooded dinosaurs, so you don't usually get your most accurate interpretation of a dinosaur from any type of Jurassic film, show, or toy. However, that being said, this one is just, again, a little bit out there, I would say, as far as the Mattel line goes. And if you are familiar with Rugops, one of the first things that you'll probably take note to on this figure is the fact that it has feathers quite, abundant through the course of the figure. And although they look really neat and actually give the dinosaur a pretty cool appearance, I have never heard of Rugops having feathers, and I don't know if you guys know something that I don't, and maybe there was some sort of information that was brought up about this, but I personally have never seen or heard of Rugops having feathers, so I'm not too sure where they came up with that idea. That's the first thing that I take notice to, but the second thing that is actually a much bigger problem for this figure is that we have 2 digits on the hand, and I don't know why they would have done that. It doesn't make any sense. It should, I believe, have about 4 digits there on the hands. It's almost like they were creating some sort of a tyrannosaur, which kind of would make sense as far as why it would be feathered. And then just randomly they were like, you know what, let's just throw a Rugops head on there and we're just going to call this one a Rugops and release it like that. I don't have a clue exactly what the mindset was going into creating this figure, but I can tell you it's probably one of the most inaccurate dinosaur figures that Mattel has made yet. But again, with that said, it does still look pretty cool. I can't deny that. As far as the box art goes, it's your standard as far as the Dominion line goes. And then here on the back, we see an image showing off, actually, I should say 4 different images, showing off the different figures that are in this wave of Ferocious Packs, which we have the Rugops, the baby Pseudoceratops, a Dimetrodon repaint, as well as the Atrociraptor. So let's pop this open and check it out. So here is our very small Rugops figure, and it fell on its face, first of all, but again, I can't deny that it does look really neat. I actually like the coloration of it a lot. It looks like the type of coloration that maybe you would see looking pretty natural on like a Eutyrannus or something like that. I just feel like that would have been a pretty cool coloration for a Eutyrannus or some feathered Tyrannosaur. And here on this version of a Rugops, it still looks pretty cool, and I think it's a really nice coloration chosen for a feathered dinosaur, which again, I don't think a Rugops would have been feathered, but it does make the figure look pretty neat. There's not, insane amounts of coloration or anything to it, but it does look pretty nice as far as what we have been given, and the sculpting and detailing on this is insanely crisp, like maybe one of the nicest Mattel figures that I've seen as far as how nice the detail looks and how nice it pops on the sculpt. It's very, very impressive. And to show you that, we're going to go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at this right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of the Rugops, you can see that we have some fantastic scale detail all through the face. You can see some really, really nice scale detail in the palate area of the dinosaur. You've got the nostrils sculpted out there. Some nice detailing and stuff there in the eye socket area. We have a pretty nice tone of color with like a darker tone of orange and I think a black pupil there for the eye. The eye placement is absolutely as perfect as it gets, which is definitely nice to see. You of course have an articulated jaw on the figure. You can see that we have kind of interesting looking teeth. They're almost a little erratic as far as the way that they look in there. You can see larger and smaller teeth and stuff through the course of the mouth. They are painted with a yellowish tone. They're a little sloppy, I will say, as far as the paintwork goes. You can kind of see, like, as you get closer to the gum line, the teeth are kind of choppy as far as the paintwork goes, and you can actually really see some sloppiness there in the front of the mouth, and even worse over here, it looks like there's like chips of paint and stuff taken out of the teeth. So The paintwork is a little sloppy as far as the teeth go. You can see that we have like a greenish tone for the majority of the body, and that does run down right here through the center of the snout. So this blackish tone doesn't quite meet the black on the other side. We have that green that kind of stripes down through the snout of the dinosaur, something that I did just take notice to. But on the inside of the mouth, you can see that we have a nicely sculpted out and painted tongue in there. Also a beautiful gloss coat included on the inside of the mouth of the dinosaur, like you usually find when it comes to the Mattel line. Very nice articulation on that jaw as well. And then as you lead up here into the top of the head, you can again see some more gorgeous looking detailing through the course of the head. I really wish they would have just ditched the feathers on this and just continued to have that nice scaly look, because the actual skin texture of this, again, might be some of the nicest that I've seen from Mattel so far. But as you move back here into the back of the head of the dinosaur, we do start to pick up quite a bit of feathering here that does look really neat, even if it's not something that I believe might have existed on a Rugops. It does look really nice, and as far as the actual sculpting and detailing goes, it looks pretty good. You can kind of see they're like all over the place as far as the feathers go, almost like emu-like feathering. You can see they kind of like stick up almost in a small crest there on the back of the head. And they continue to have that blackish tone through the whole face as we lead back here into the feathers before transitioning back to the green. You can see that we do have some more of those feathers, though, as they lead down in that greenish coloration. And we do have a speckling that you can probably start to pick up on that is quite abundant on the figure with a nice black speckling. You can actually see some of the feathering run down here all the way to the underside, all through the throat, and then leading up here into the lower jaw. Really nice scale detail again for that lower jaw as well. But as you lead back here into the neck, once that feathering kind of tapers off, you start to see kind of like some skin creasing and stuff there in the neck, but really, really nice looking scale detail. So nice that I honestly think this figure is just crying out for a dark wash to highlight that detail. You see more of it as you start to lead back closer toward the shoulder area of our Rugops. Very small arms, kind of have a little bit more feathering though, hanging off of the back of the arm. But then we come down here, we have two fingers for absolutely no reason whatsoever. No painted nails either, but this area is just the absolute most baffling area, I would say, of the dinosaur altogether, because we could just go ahead and say maybe we don't know enough about Rugops, I guess, to assume that maybe at some point in their lifespan they could have had feathers, but the fact that we have 2 digits when we absolutely should have had, I believe, 4 is just really quite baffling to me. But as you lead back up here toward the shoulder, again, you start to see more feathers, and they become extremely abundant all through the entire figure here, all the way up here onto the back, and they stay, again, that nice greenish tone with that black speckling. You can see more of the skin texture down here in the stomach region, and look at how incredibly nice that skin detail looks. That is definitely some of the nicest looking skin detail I think I've seen from a Mattel figure quite yet. You can see we also transition back to the black here, right around a little bit before the hips, and we overtake the entire back here with the black coloration. But as we lead down here into the legs, you can again make out the muscle definition as well as some more really nice skin texture. We also transition again from that black down into the green, and you can see some more of the feathers here on the back of the thigh all the way down here into the calf. You can still make out the calf muscle there, even if the feathers are kind of obscuring it. But again, look at how beautiful that skin texture looks as you lead down. You've got a pretty nice looking foot sculpt, kind of like a mixture of a nice bird-like looking foot sculpt, but still kind of having that trademark Mattel theropod style foot sculpt. Unfortunately, no nail paint. It doesn't look like we even have like a gloss coat or anything there at all for those nails, which is a little bit of a downside. But there's some nice scoots running down the toes, some more really nice scale detail here on the side of the foot. You can really see that there's lots of speckles all through the foot, even leading up into the leg. You've got the dew claw here sticking out of the back of the foot. And then you lead back up here again, and as you lead these feathers off of the thigh out into the tail, you have just a plethora of feathers out here, and then again the tail completely becomes overtaken with that blackish tone of color. And you can also see that same deal for the underside. We still do have some skin texture here for the underside of our Rugops, but the feathers run along the top of the tail. They do transition away out here, and then the remainder of the tail ends up being just a scaly type of a look, though. And there's a nice curve in the tail. You can see as you lead out, you do have a really, really nice looking, quite natural looking curve for the tail of the dinosaur. Beautiful skin texture here on the underneath as well, and you're not really going to see too much difference, I would imagine, over here. The eye placement looks pretty good, actually. The paintwork of the teeth is not so good, but the eye placement looks nice. The transitions back and forth as far as the coloration goes does look pretty nice on the figure. I will definitely say that. Like, that's a smooth transition from the black to the green. Same deal up here on the top of the body. Not too much difference, though, on this side compared to the opposing side, except for the fact that the right leg is definitely leading, whereas the left leg is trailing, but everything, again, looks pretty much the same over here, just a different looking leg sculpt, but same style of sculpt, same style of paint. Definitely a nice looking figure, very inaccurate, but still a pretty darn cool looking version of a Rugops. As far as the articulation goes on our Rugops, you have the jaw articulation, which we already have mentioned. You can see that that works very nicely. You also have neck articulation, so you can go down, you can go up, and you can, yes, there we go. I had to get it to apparently unstiffen a little bit there, but you can swivel it as well. You can also see that we have arm articulation, so we can move the arms forward and back, hold them into the body in what, again, I feel like is a little bit more of a natural position. You also have leg articulation forward and back. They don't come out away from the body, I don't think. No, not really. And then a swivel on the tail, so a little extra added articulation out here. You also have the Jurassic Facts app code if you would like to add this to your collection, because I did not point that out prior. But a little bit of articulation, pretty much your standard as far as the wild pack or ferocious pack in this instance type of figure. For a length, you are looking at, I would say, about the 7¼ inches, or right around 18 centimeters, maybe a little bit over 18 centimeters. And this one doesn't stand too well. I don't know if I just have him in a bad position or what, but he definitely seems to like falling forward. He's a little top heavy. I'm not too sure what's going on with that. But yeah, you can see he doesn't really want to stand too well. So that's a little bit of a downside for this guy. I don't normally have too many problems with Mattel figures standing, but this one, I don't know if the feet are warped or what, but he's not standing too well. Now he's standing a little bit. And then for a height in this position, while we can still check while he's standing, you're looking at about the 3¼ inch range, or a little over 8 centimeters, maybe approaching 8.5, but I don't think it's going to reach that area. Just a little over 8 centimeters, I would say. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line, next to our Rugops, and you can see that this is a very small figure right there again, perfectly in the same Attack Pack size range as most figures that have come before it. Really quite small, honestly. And apparently also might have narcolepsy since he just went to sleep right here. But definitely, again, a bit here on the smaller side. But for another comparison, here is our Rugops face-to-face with the Quilmosaurus that is recently released from Mattel. And you can definitely see that these guys are a very similar size. So if you happen to have snagged the Extreme Damage Quilmosaurus, you might have, a rough idea here as far as what the size is of our Rugops. But for another comparison, yet again face-to-face, because we need a little help holding our Rugops up, we have a Velociraptor, the Extreme Damage Velociraptor, next to the Rugops. And since the Velociraptors are all kind of like the same standard size, I figured this one would be a pretty good one to bring in again to show you that this absolutely has a smaller size as far as the Rugops goes. And then for one final comparison before the Rugops falls over again, you can see that we have the Rugops and the Kenner Young Rex here, again showing off this very, very small size for the Rugops. Still, even with the smaller size, it's going down. It's a beautiful looking figure regardless. Again, not exactly accurate, but still a really nice sculpt. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic World Dominion Ferocious Pack Rugops is still a really cool figure, even if it does have quite a few problems. The upside to the figure, the sculpt, is incredibly nicely done. Like, really, really crisp detail. Crisp is honestly the only way I can explain how nice the detail looks. It is insanely vibrant and really pops on the sculpt of this. And even if, again, I don't know for sure if Rugops had feathers, or would think it didn't. I haven't ever heard of it having feathers. But even if it didn't, I think the feathered look for this is so unique, it kind of draws me in and makes me like it just because it looks so different. And it's also not something you usually see from Mattel, as they don't have very many feathered dinosaurs. So I do appreciate the fact that we have a little bit of feathers on this one, even if I don't believe the dinosaur itself actually had feathers. And it still looks really nice. The feather detail is really beautifully done. In fact, I would say the feather detail on this is even nicer than what you see on the Pyroraptors that Mattel has released. least. And on top of that, the scale detail is insanely nice looking, and potentially some of, if not the nicest scale detail I've ever seen on a Mattel Sculpt, so that as well is really awesome. The paint job looks really good. Again, it's not anything amazing. It's not super impressively painted, but it's nice for what it is, and although it's kind of basic, it looks natural. So it's also cool to have the paint out there on the tail that kind of changes the second half of the color of the figure out there on the tail, because it just looks like it has paint from head to tail, even if there's not really that much to it. Of course, it would have been nice to have painted nails, but the coloration that we do have does look pretty cool. On top of that, being a Ferocious pack, it's a very small, convenient size, so if you have a gigantic Mattel collection at this point, it's nice to have a smaller figure once in a while, and a smaller one to enter into your collection without taking up too much room. It's also awesome in general to have a Rugops because it's a species that's brand new to the Jurassic line, something we have not ever had prior, and it's also a species of dinosaur we don't have very many figures of in general, so that is pretty cool as well. But again, the downsides to it definitely is the lack of digits on the hand. Like, it has 2 fingers. It kind of, again, like I said earlier, makes it seem like they were sculpting out some sort of a Tyrannosaur species and then decided to change it up last minute into a Rugops. And it doesn't make sense as to why they would have given it 2 fingers when it should have around 4. And outside of that, the feathering is a little bit off-putting for many because I don't believe this dinosaur had feathers, but it does still look really cool with them. So as a whole, it's a pretty nice looking figure, a little bit strange, but still a little bit awesome at the same time. So if you are interested in picking this up, I would say check your local Targets, as that seems to be the place it's showing up most often right now. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.